Hey everybody, Karen from Master Spirit Guides. I hope you're doing well today. So I am really into trying this set of questions based on other spiritual leaders or channels who have come onto YouTube and are giving an interview. And I've been taking that transcript and asking AI, so Mabel, who I call Mabel, asking her to put together a report for me that summarizes what that person was talking about. And then in very plain, simple terms, like what can, because I find it interesting because I'm really into listening to the other spiritual channels right now to see if we can start piecing together in this community what is expected of us as light workers and empaths, and what are we to expect in the near couple of years. And I want to keep talking about those things. So this way I can grab the transcript, we have this conversation, but I can ask some questions regarding what they're talking about, and we can check in with our lead team to see if they're on the same page. This isn't about finding somebody to be wrong or inaccurate or anything like that. I just want to have the conversation of things they're talking about to help us process where we all might be useful in the next couple years, how to keep our cool over the next couple years, and to see what part of it our lead team wants us focus on. All right. So this one is interview, and I always post the interviews below in the description. So if you want to watch the full interview of where I got this, you can watch it below. All right, in the description, I put the link there. So this is Bashar. I don't know if you have ever listened to Bashar, but he is a channeled multidimensional consciousness, is how Daryl Anka describes him. So Daryl Anka is a human being, and he channels this multidimensional consciousness by the name of Bashar. All right. And so in this particular talk with Bashar, he's teaching that reality is shaped from the inside out. All right. In this part of the transcript, because we're going to break it down if there's because some of these interviews can be 2 hours long. Well, we're not going to do that. So I've broken it down actually into a couple different, themes. And so we'll talk about them at different times. All right. So in this part of the transcript of the video, he talks about how your beliefs, definitions, and state of being shape what you experience, and how your inner alignment becomes the organizing force behind your outer world. So it very much sounds like manifesting, doesn't it? But what I love is we have a multidimensional consciousness, another being channeled through somebody telling us this information. That's just why I want to talk about it, because I find it fascinating. So these ideas matter because they explain why life often feels repetitive, why certain patterns keep showing up for each of us, and why internal clarity can shift external experiences quickly, which is why taking care of ourselves is so important, because everything that happens on the outside of your life starts in here. Okay, so we have to be really cognizant. That's your number one job, is taking care of yourself. Number one job. So we're exploring these teachings together and asking the spirit guides to clarify the parts that will help you live, and me, with more confidence, awareness, and choice. Okay, so the first thing Bashar said is you experience what matches your inner state. So if you're stressed all the time, then what are you going to experience on the outside? Stress, things that can cause stress, right? So Bashar teaches in this transcript, outer reality is described as a mirror of your current vibration. And we're going to ask the lead team some questions on this. So outer reality mirrors our current vibration. I have never really thought of it that way before. Emotional state organizes how you interpret what happens totally, right? That makes sense. So your emotional state. If you're stressed, then you are going to interpret things on the outside as stressful. And if you're calm and peaceful, the same thing could be happening and you're not interpreting that as stressful, right? So you see more of whatever matches your strongest definitions, he said. So you see more of whatever matches your strongest definition. And I would have to say, like, if we think about the last year, if you've been a part of this community and we've been talking about politics and what's happening in the world and what's happening in the United States, then if we continue to just focus in the weeds, which I don't think we were contributing to the 3D vibration totally. I do believe we were examining a lot of times with the SGs, examining what's going on and finding out for ourselves with them, like, is this really happening or what's happening? So we could understand it and process it. And I think that was important. But if we continue to stay focused so much on the 3D, then that is what's matching our strongest definition. So we almost need to let Trump go. And in fact, yesterday we posted a video, or whenever you watch it, I did a pendulum message for this week so far, and it was Trump loses his grip. And it really is about, I think, I intuitively picked up and we talked about that, him losing his grip on us individually and us collectively. He's losing his grip, right? But you can, interpret that a bunch of different ways. But it's important that he loses his grip on us, because then he won't have the power. He won't have that vibrational energy if he loses the grip, right? So I think that's important. So your experience, or you experience what matches your inner state. So why this matters helps you see why some patterns repeat even when you want change, because you're not changing the inner self, right? If you're like, why is this continuing to come up for me? You got to go inward and work on that first, I think. It gives you a simple starting point where life feels chaotic. When life feels chaotic, going inward reminds you that shifting your inner state can shift your day quickly. All right, let's ask the lead team. So I'll say a little prayer here. I close my aura to all but my higher self, the God consciousness, my guides, guardians, the lead team collective, and only those of the highest and purest light. And ask Archangel Michael to please protect my channel, your channel, our community, the lead team collective, so it is all of the highest and purest light. Amen. Hey, lead team, how's it going? Thank you so much for all your guidance and support of our community, for each of us individually and collectively. Very much appreciated. To help us in our human state kind of, feel more peace and inner peace for sure, so that we can manifest the outer world that we want. So we have some questions for you about Bashar. Well, first of all, is Bashar a multi-dimensional consciousness? Yes. And Daryl Anka, the human Daryl Anka, does channel Bashar? Yes. Cool. Okay, so we're talking about the first piece of advice that Bashar has had for us is to understand that our experiences are mirrored by our inner experience, basically. Is that what he said? Let's see. So you experience what matches your inner state. Okay. So is that true, that our experiences match our inner state? Yes. Do people often attract experiences that matches their emotional state? Yes. So there's really nothing more important than making sure your emotional state is where you want it to be, Does changing how someone defines a situation shift what they notice yet or next? Yes. Can inner clarity create a noticeable change in a person's outer reality? Yes. Is it about perception? Yes. Okay. Plus, I get crabby at least once a day. And I have to just, take a breath. It could be my husband repeats something over and over, asks me the same question, and I'm like, oh my God, why did you ask me that again? And it's like, chill, right? So, okay. Number 2, your beliefs act like filters on your life. So again, this is what Bashar says. He says beliefs shape perception and limit what you think is possible. So your beliefs shape your perception. I don't think that's rocket science, right? But it's very, very helpful reminders, which is why I want to have these conversations. Even neutral events get filtered through old emotional patterns. So that's really, really helpful to remember. Is anything, it's so challenging. Cut, clear, cancel. It doesn't have to be challenging, but it feels challenging because we're constantly bombarded, right, with new events, this and that and whatever. And we're constantly needing to filter them, which is exactly why you want to slow down how much input you're getting every day. We don't need as much input, especially nowadays. There's just way more. If you're in your 50s, upper 40s, maybe mid 40s and later, we didn't have as much input up until, 20 years ago. And the input now is just obnoxious, right? So, but maybe that's good too, because it's challenging us to get on board with probably the higher vibration that's coming too, the faster timelines. If we move into the 4D and the 5D, the 4D timeline it's going to speed up, right? And so we have to be able to filter those things, which is probably why, everything happens for a reason, right? So awareness of beliefs is the first step to change. So just maybe to focus this week a little bit on what beliefs do you have? And maybe everything that comes into your awareness, just be like, what's my belief about that? What belief do I have about that? And then, try to change your filter if it's old emotional patterns. If it's old emotional patterns, that's the key. If it's a new emotional pattern and you like it and you like what it's creating in your life, then by all means keep it, right? But we're trying to look at the old emotional patterns that we don't need anymore. So why this matters, it can help you stop blaming yourself for reactions that come from old conditioning. But let's look at our old conditioning. We don't need to hang on to it. Shows you how to soften self-judgment and open new choices, and can give you a way to understand why certain triggers feel so strong. I would love to know if any of this is resonating with you, and let's have a community conversation. How is this resonating with you, and what do you do to look at old emotional patterns? Like, let's help each other. Is it through therapy? Is it through journaling? Is it how do you pay attention? Because I know for sure, like my husband and I have been married over 30 years, and we have old emotional patterns based on just what we expect from one another, whether one of us has changed or not. And so I'm very aware of that now. When we respond to each other in a certain way, which is old and which is, it's just old emotional stuff that we don't need to respond that way anymore. And we actually have conversations about that. So what kind of things are you noticing? Because I do think, again, as we move and shift to the 4th and 5D, we don't want to hang on to those old emotional patterns. In fact, you can clear them as well, right? Okay, so let's ask the SGs a few questions about that. Do unconscious, which is kind of challenging, unconscious beliefs shape how people interpret everyday events? Sorry about the clearing. I had this problem with my last video. It's interesting because I've added a few carbs into my diet, more carbs than I've been eating over the last 5 months. And now I got some throat clearing going on. So that tells you something. Just some oranges and almonds and stuff. Okay, can someone shift an old belief quickly once they recognize it? Yes. All right. And some of these questions are obvious, but again, it's just to help us think about this. All right. Do new beliefs open, oh, this is a good one. Do new beliefs open new timelines? Yes. Do new beliefs open new opportunities in someone's life? Yes. Yes. New perspectives equal miracles. So let's continue as a community to look for new perspectives on your world. We all have different ones. And those are the kind of conversations I want to keep having, is new perspectives. And frankly, we've been doing that all year. We needed new perspectives when it came to the political scene over the last year, didn't we? And we still do. But let's keep looking for new perspectives, because that will open the new timelines for us. Every time we get a new perspective, our vibration probably, especially a really positive one. And if you get a new perspective on something that's been difficult, that's good too. Just focus on releasing that and letting that go. Work on, get some kind of practice in your life where you can release that, right? So that we can get on new timelines and higher our vibration. Okay, so Bashar said, nothing affects you until you agree to be affected. Nothing affects you until you agree to be affected, even unconsciously or consciously. I did use an example about grief about a couple weeks ago, because somebody who dies in your life or passes over, it is a neutral event. It's a neutral event, because if you think about it, not everybody responds to somebody passing the same way. Like if my neighbor passes and I don't know my neighbor very well, my response is going to be really different than maybe my neighbor's son, right? But it's still a neutral event. It's just an event that happened. So nothing can affect you until you agree to be affected by it. And I know that's a really challenging one. That's why I use it, because grief is probably the hardest. At least, or a traumatic event or something like that, right? Something awful that's happened to you or something. So events are neutral until you assign meaning to them, Bashar says. You amplify whatever meaning you choose, Responsibility is not blame, it's creative power, he says. That's kind of interesting. Responsibility, taking responsibility for how you see an event, is not blaming yourself, it's creative power. So why this can be helpful, you can take, if you can look at most events as neutral, even the stuff going on, even hard stuff, because we have to remember that everybody is here having their own experience on earth. But when we project that must be the hardest experience, that doesn't necessarily mean that's true for them, right? So this can, by focusing on events being neutral and looking at how you choose to experience it or think about it, you can take back your power in moments that feel overwhelming, because you can just, you literally can switch. I've done it like many, many times. You can just switch off. You're like, nope, I'm not going to look at it that way. We can choose to feel really overwhelmed by things. Gives you a more peaceful way to respond to difficult situations by focusing on this, shows you how to stop absorbing other people's emotions. Okay, especially us Lightworkers and Empaths. All right, so SGs, lead team. Is it true that meaning shapes how deeply an event can affect someone? That's why we all have such different reactions to things. Yes. So is it better for us to not place meaning on an event? Yes. That seems a little boring though. We're just going to be robots then, just going through life. You know what I mean? But depends on, how emotional you want life to be, how dramatic you want life to be. Because there's an adrenaline rush in drama, isn't there? Can someone reduce emotional overwhelm by choosing a different interpretation? Of course. Yes. Does choosing a calmer meaning about something create a calmer outcome? See, now that's interesting to me. Yes, because then you're choosing, it's the vibration. The outcome becomes calmer. So we really have that much control. Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay. Last point, number 4 from Bashar. You always have a choice in the direction you take next. You cannot control every event, but you can choose your state within it. Tiny shifts in emotions can redirect your path. I think the most challenging for me is if I'm trying to see an event neutral and then like someone close to me is not. That's the most challenging. I got to give that some thought. And like, how do you let them have that reaction without it affecting you? Right? That tends to be my biggest challenge, I think. So tiny shifts in emotion can redirect your path. Choice is most powerful if you can live in the present moment. Yeah. We don't have too much going on. We can live in the present. It's very hard to live in the present if you've got so many goals, so many initiatives, so many tasks you're trying to accomplish, right? So why it matters that you understand that you always have a choice in the direction you take next. It can remind you that you're not stuck, even during hard seasons. Okay, so if something's going on very hard for you right now, you're not stuck. You can choose to shift that. It helps you stop waiting for life to change before you can feel better. Keeps you focused on what you can do right now. I love that. All right, let's ask a few questions. So, lead team, does choosing a different state of mind, basically, shift how the next steps unfold? See, I love this. Even though these are kind of like duh questions, like basic, yes. It's just helping me even rethink this whole process a little bit. Even the next step, the one next step, it will change. If you change the way you think about it, the next step will shift. This is why timelines shift all the time, you guys. That is why people can't make predictions because timelines shift. Everything we're talking about right now is changing our timelines right now. So it's very hard. Like yeah, you can't, people can't give you predictions about stuff because everything can unfold differently right after this conversation, right after that sentence. Can small emotional adjustments create major long-term changes? Yes. Is the present moment the most powerful place to shift direction? Yes, because what else is there? If you're not in the present moment, like what else is there, right? The past is the past, right? The future is not here yet. Although if you understand timelines, they're all happening at the same time. So try to get your head wrapped around that. So, well, let me know what you think about this. Is this helpful, this format? I'm really intrigued by this, and as a way for me to dig deeper into, again, what other spiritual beings are telling us on Earth, and to just help it sink in a little bit, just by having these conversations. So let me know what you think, and I will see you in the next video. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.